We use computers every day. It's hard to imagine our lives without them. From work to games, we spend a large portion of our life on computers and are highly dependent on them. While computers in theory should last as long as 8 years, studies show that most people will throw away a perfectly good computer after only 2 years of use. Why is this? Let's take a look. Let's take a look inside of a computer. In most computers, there are 5 main parts inside of the case: the motherboard, CPU, RAM, GPU, and hard drive. The motherboard acts similar to a chassis of a car, giving all the components inside the computer something to connect to. There are dedicated slots for CPU, RAM, and GPU. The hard drive or solid-state drive connects to the motherboard via SATA cables and is usually seated inside the computer's actual case. CPU is usually located in or near the center of the motherboard. There's a single door to hold it down into place. Often there's also a piece of jagged metal on top of it that looks like this. We'll talk more about this later. The CPU is like the brain of a computer. It undergoes all the processing for the entire computer. In all CPUs, there's a clock that ticks on or off multiple times per second. Modern processors measure this in gigahertz, giga meaning billion and hertz meaning ticks per second. For example, this 3.5 gigahertz Intel processor ticks 3.5 billion times per second, meaning it can interpret 3.5 billion ones and zeros every second. These ones and zeros are called binary. Everything on your computer is made up of a unique key of ones and zeros, including mouse movements, pictures, and applications. This is where the RAM comes in. RAM is short for random access memory and is the place in a computing device where the operating system, application programs, and data in current use are kept, so they can be quickly reached by the device's processor. Data remains in RAM as long as the computer is running. When the computer is turned off, RAM loses its data. Why is this useful, you may ask? Here's the graph comparing RAM and SSD speeds, telling you exactly why. As you can see, the RAM is significantly faster, as well as smaller, than the solid-state drive. You can compare RAM to a person's short-term memory. A person can remember what they ate for breakfast on any given day, but if you ask somebody what they ate for breakfast 219 days ago, chances are they won't remember. If your computer has 32 gigabytes of RAM, it would be like a person remembering what they ate for breakfast last week. However, if you have, let's say, 212 megabytes of RAM, that would be like someone forgetting whether or not they breathed recently. So how much RAM should you have? Once again, there's a helpful graph. As you can see, the encoding time difference between 4 gigabytes and 8 gigabytes is 85 seconds, while there is only a 10-second difference between 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes. So it's safe to say 8 is a good number. The hard drive or solid-state drive takes the role of storing all the information that is too much for the RAM to handle. A hard drive is a high-capacity, self-contained storage device containing a read-write mechanism, in this case, a CD. Data is written onto the CD and can be read from it as well. However, similar to the RAM, there is a different, faster option to the hard drive. This option is a solid-state drive. A solid-state drive, unlike its cousin the hard drive, has no moving parts whatsoever. Instead, it uses flash memory and a series of circuits to store information, making it faster, but more expensive as well. While the peak read rate of a hard drive is only 75 megabytes per second, a solid-state drive can reach up to a whopping 559 megabytes every second, leaving the solid-state drive as a clear winner. This leaves us the GPU, or Graphics Processing Unit. The GPU is a programmable logic chip specialized for display functions. The GPU renders images, animations, and video for the computer screen. GPUs are located on plug-in cards, or sometimes are included in the motherboard. GPUs are extremely expensive, costing as much as or more than a CPU. Unless a user is using the computer for gaming, it's recommended that the dedicated motherboard GPU is used, and if your board doesn't come with one, just buy a cheap one from Best Buy. Now you know the ins and outs of your computer, but it still breaks down at a measly 2 years. Why is this? There are a lot of reasons this could be happening, so I've made 3 easy tips that should solve most of your hardware issues and ensure a long and happy life for your computer. Number 1, make sure your PC is cool. It's extremely important to ensure your computer stays cool, not only to impress its friends, but also to keep its parts working at full force and ensure your parts last as long as you would like. Overheated parts are the #1 cause of early computer deaths and parts breaking. Open up your computer through one of the case walls. Make sure your computer's fans aren't clogged or broken in any way. It might even be a good idea to start your computer to ensure they're working properly. Clean out the dust. Since it traps heat in the case, dust should be regularly removed from all the parts previously talked about. Make sure while you're cleaning your computer you don't damage any parts or disconnect any wires. The jagged metal mentioned earlier is called a heatsink and extracts the heat from the CPU. My CPU got as hot as 99 degrees Celsius without even executing any programs, so this is going to show heat extraction is extremely important. Heatsinks are typically connected to the CPU via thermal paste, which provides a medium of heat transfer. Thermal paste is made out of polymerizable liquid matrix in large volumes of electrically insulated and thermally conductive filler. This is a unique property because it keeps all the electricity generated by the CPU in and helps extract all the heat out of the CPU. The heat is then dispersed throughout the heatsink and then whisked away by the fans. If your heatsink looks like this, you're good to go. If it looks like this, you're good to go as well. If it looks like this, you're more than good to go. But if it looks like this, drop what you're doing and fix it. Heatsinks like these don't get the job done for modern day computing because the metal only carries the heat so far away from the CPU. This means while the heat is dispersed, it is still compact and close to the CPU, slowly warming it, and is often too short for the fans to even reach. Luckily, these are easily switched out. Motherboards usually have 4 holes pre-drilled around the CPU. Peel off the current heatsink, but make sure the computer is completely off and disconnected before you do so. Then install one of these, or one of these. Don't worry, they come with vague directions that you won't be able to understand, so you'll eventually watch a YouTube video on how to install it. This should take care of any heat-related issues with your computer. Number 2, switch out your hard drive for an SSD. Believe it or not, people actually throw away their computers due to faulty or failing hard drives. Hard drives aren't the greatest when it comes to computer storage, so you may want to buy yourself a solid-state drive. These will likely not only outlast your hard drive, but also all of your other parts. Luckily, solid-state drives are easy to install through SATA connections, which are data transfer cables. Number 3, switch out the battery on your motherboard. On every motherboard, there's a circular battery similar to a watch battery, only larger. This is usually located towards the bottom of the board. Like any other battery, these can slow down and even die over time. This will hinder your motherboard and as a result negatively affect all the parts attached as well. Factors such as fan speed or processing speed can be altered by this and wear down your computer. Computers help us a lot through our daily lives, and the right thing to do is check up on them every once in a while. Similar to the human body, computers need to be maintained to continue working at peak performance. With this information, hopefully you can get the most out of your computer.